All right, everybody, welcome back to True Crime with Lamb Investigations. I'm retired Sheriff Mark Lamb.
And I'm Janelle Lamb.
You got a case for us today.
I am. I'm going to be your girl Friday.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so today's case is about a cop, a murder confession, and a disappearing woman. So let's get into Peggy's redemption.
Ooh, I like it. Sounds good.
Okay.
Is that bad to say? Sounds good. Sounds interesting.
It's very
there
interesting.
We go.
Yes. Very old case. So wasn't a lot of pictures about it. So it's going to be mostly just a story time today. So really, I mean, how does somebody commit murder and then walk away for 20 years, more than 20 years? So we're going to get into it. We're in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, back in the late 90s. You know, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, medium-sized town. We had a woman named Peggy Johnson. And she was a Native American woman, part-time homeless, known around town having the mental issues. You know, most towns have your cross-section of folks like that. You know, the town kind of knows who they are. She had some mental health issues, and she was just kind of not transient, but kind of one of those in and out of society type people.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah. Well, she gets reported missing by her family and friends in 1999. And the last she was seen by some bystanders was getting into a police car. And there was witnesses to this. She gets in the police car, and the cop is going to take her to somewhere safe, maybe a hospital or a shelter or somewhere, because she's homeless again. The cop that picked her up and was taking her to somewhere safe was named Joseph Peachy. And he said he picked her up.
Well, it sounds peachy.
Well, Joseph Peachy ain't so peachy. He picked her up, he gave her a ride, and he dropped her off. And that was pretty much the end of the story at that point. I mean, they looked for her, they put the word out. She was never seen again. And tell us
Which happens a lot of the homeless stuff is because there's the families a lot of times are not connected. And so they're not pushing to find out what happened. And they're used to their family members maybe being on drugs,
disappearing for a few years at a time. And what do we always say? When you're an adult, it's your right to disappear. There's really only so much we can do.
And at those times, everything was just, you didn't have all the cell phones, the social media.
Yeah. There wasn't the flock cameras or cameras in front of stores, Ring cameras. We just didn't have all that back in 1999.
And so what you would probably do, if you're asking me, is you would interview people on the street that maybe knew her.
And they saw her like, oh, the cops picked her up. Like after that, we don't know.
And honestly, you just really probably wouldn't make your focal point. And I don't know where the story's going, but I have an idea already, as maybe somebody else does. You don't necessarily make the focal point. The police, I'm sure that he had his report as to what he did with her, but I don't know how much further you would go into that, especially if nobody was complaining or nobody was pushing the issue.
Well, the case goes cold. I mean, as so many cases do, missing women, that's just kind of, especially Indigenous and Native American women. It's a real epidemic. And it was just that she was just kind of another statistic, unfortunately.
And a lot of people don't realize that. And I'm going to put in a word for the Native American communities. A lot of women and children go missing off Native American communities.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it is nefarious in nature. And so she seems to have been one of them.
She was one of the statistics. So fast forward, so that was in 1999. So fast forward 10 years to 2009. Joseph Peachy is not with the police force anymore. He's not a cop anymore. He's starting to have some problems. He's starting to have marital problems. He's starting to have some emotional issues. He's having some breakdowns. And the cops are actually getting a little worried about him because he's delving into past cases, things he's seen as a cop. We're kind of starting to unravel him mentally. Like I said, he's losing his marriage and his family, and he's showing some signs of some severe emotional distress. So the cops are concerned. They see him spiraling and kind of crashing out. So they bring him in for an official interview. They actually bring him into the police station, kind of a welfare check. I'm guessing on a past colleague, hey, this guy's not acting right. We need to make sure he's doing okay. And in the process of this interview, he starts talking about Peggy Johnson. And he starts talking about how he picked her up and he sexually assaulted her. And then he says she was going to report him. So he's like, so I strangled her and I dumped her by the Chippewa River.
So who's he saying this to? The friends?
No, he's in the police station who are doing a welfare check on his emotional state. he starts talking about this. And during the process, they could kind of see like, we need to Mirandize this guy because he's committing crime. He's confessing to crimes here. So they did Mirandize him, but he gave a detailed confession of what happened. And they were kind of like, okay. They didn't really have anything to hold him. They had never found her body. They had never had any
no
evidence.
DNA.
Nothing to go on. It's been 10 years.
No body, so you couldn't even really verify whether she really was dead or not, which is one of the...
I mean, how crazy is this guy? Is he just telling stories? Is he misremembering? How unraveled is he? So they send him on his way, and they go and do some investigation. They go to the river where he says he dumped her. There was nothing there. I mean, it's been 10 years. No body, no evidence, nothing. So no arrest, no murder, kind of nothing happens.
Even with the so-called confession,
if there's what,
it's easily going to get thrown out of the court.
Yeah,
and so I understand
exactly.
as law enforcement, we would try to do exactly what they're doing, which is go find more evidence to corroborate or vindicate him of what he's saying.
Right. So once again, she goes back into the shadows. Life moves on. Joseph Peachy moves on. And now we fast forward to 2021. So
we were
reported missing in
1999.
He confesses in 2009.
10 years.
Now we're in 2021. So we're like, another 12 years goes
11,
by.
12 years.
I mean, so now we're over 20 years since Peggy Johnson goes missing. And Joseph Peachy is charged with first-degree sexual assault.
So clearly they were working the case along the way.
Well, what it was the DA found a way to make this stick. So the indigenous women's movement was starting to get more traction, and there were people that were pushing for more of these cases. So it was just kind of more out in the public, and people had more awareness. And so this DA, James Ward, looked at the case from a different angle. Instead of saying it was a murder, what else could we get this guy on? And so he said, let's go for the sexual assault, the first-degree sexual assault. And sure enough, you can prosecute that with no body.
Or without a victim.
And no victim. It's his confession. That's all they needed was all they needed to prosecute him on those charges. So the DA brought the charges, and when they brought him in, his confession stood. And so they had a confession, and they were able to charge him, and they didn't need a body to do that.
That is a strange... On the murder, I can see how they were so pigeonholed in on the murder.
Yeah.
But it actually took a little outside the box thinking, and maybe, okay, we can't get to here.
Where can we get?
Yeah. And the fact that he was consistent in his story and confessed to it again, even after being arrested.
Yeah. So he pled guilty. He didn't have a trial. He got a 25-year sentence.
Which is probably the max for that.
Right. And in Wisconsin, there's no parole.
Good.
So when they went in, they knew that they could at least hold him accountable for something and not just let this guy walk free. I mean, as a prosecutor, it had to drive you crazy to know this guy was out there just murdering and got let go. And now they had something to get him on. So yeah, in Wisconsin, there's no parole. There's no parole board. Like, your time is your time. So what he will be, now we're in 2021. So actually just happened not too long ago.
So he's 5 years into his sentence.
Yep. So he has to do 15 years of his time, and then he'll have 10 years of extended supervision. I mean, I had a ton of questions about this case. I mean, I was reading through. I mean, I was just like, I had so many questions. So like, why did he even confess? Like, why did he do that? And so the consensus is it wasn't that he was feeling guilty. It's that he was really coming unraveled emotionally and mentally, and he was afraid he was going to get caught. And so I think it was his way to kind of get ahead of it, or somehow maybe they would go easy on him. And he was feeling mentally unstable.
Well, and it worked. He got it off his chest in 2009, admits to it, confesses to it, and wasn't charged till 2021. So I wonder if it made him feel better to get it off his chest. And then he's like, well, okay, I guess they're not going to do anything about it.
They did have the witness statements of the people who said, yes, we saw him pick her up and take her in his police car. And they were able to corroborate that. And they were able to get him on 25 years. So even though he didn't go to prison for murder, he did go for that sexual assault. And I feel hopefully that the friends and family of Peggy feel a little bit vindicated that he at least got some pretty hard time for what he did, because he needed to go to jail.
But think about that. That's a 21 years, 22 years for the family of waiting to know, only to find out that it was a bad cop that decided that he was going to assault that woman and then later, according to him, strangle her. And where did he say he put the body?
He dumped it on the side of the river, according to him. And he told them exactly where he put her.
Wow. This is an interesting case.
Pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, because typically when you don't have a body and you don't have evidence, you don't have a victim, off of his confession alone.
I mean, kudos to that DA, James Ward, for making it happen, for holding this man accountable for his actions.
Did he go to trial?
No.
Say, okay, I got to believe that if he would have gone to trial,
he was guilty, and they.
I got to believe that if he would have gone to trial, a trial lawyer could have probably gotten him off of that.
Yeah.
They would have suppressed his confession under the Fifth Amendment. He would have that would have been thrown out, and so then they would have have to go back and do the case just off of sheer evidence, and it would have been insufficient to convict him.
Right.
So he must have taken the plea for 25 years.
Well, this was a pretty obscure case. And so if you are from the Eau Claire, Wisconsin area and you remember this case, make sure you make a comment, because I would love to hear, like, if this was a big deal at the time. It's actually pretty hard to find any information on it, like the pictures and different things. Like, we had a hard time finding anything.
Yeah, we'd love to show you some pictures of these people, of James Peachy and of Peggy Johnson, but
it's a small area.
And if you Google Peggy Johnson, trust me, you're going to find a different case, which we may end up doing that case too.
It was very intriguing to me. Yeah. I maybe do that one pretty soon. So
good one.
So tell me what you think. Tell us what you think about this case.
Comment, like, subscribe.
Yeah.
And catch us on the next true crime video.
See you later.